All
All
right,
right,
here we go.
we're live. Welcome. So today we have Tom McConnell in Virginia. He is a an Air Force service member, active duty. So welcome, Tom. Good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
um, so Tom, as we kind of discussed briefly, we really just kind of wanted to get a little bit of your story, how you're able to do the volume you do while still active duty, and then we can kind of talk about what you and I are working on the side here as well. So I guess to get started, Tom, kind of tell us your path, your journey into real estate so far.
All right. So I've been practicing for about 4 years now, but prior to that, I kind of got the entrepreneurial itch probably 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I started reading books, pretty much all the ones you would think, the self help, the uh, just entrepreneurial type stuff. And I started thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I tried different businesses, online retail. I did created a nutrition company. I even had a sauna company fly me around the U.S. and I did promotional deals with UFC fighters, which was really cool.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and all of this while active duty, so a lot of fun trying to fit that in. But it's all been in the effort to the why is to connect with other high performing people, people who are ambitious, want to get after it, do things for the right reasons, and that was like the driving factor. All those things were cool. Probably the coolest was the UFC fighters having dinner with like Misha Tate, Randy Couture, hanging out with those guys, rolling with them. That was a good time.
Sure,
Um,
sibling.
it was pretty awesome. But I could not control the product. I could not control the customer service, and I wanted it to be at a higher level, right? So I kind of took a step back, started thinking, like, what is it that I can get into? And nutrition company was cool. Don't get me wrong. I learned a lot, marketing, SEO, knocking on doors. But to go above and beyond when you're sending somebody a vitamin pack for their brain, there's not a lot of ROI on it, right? So the industry, I kind of thought about it, and real estate was one of those things. You can stand out among the crowd when you give exceptional customer service, product, and just going above and beyond. And I also kind of clicked. I'm at 18 years in the Air Force. I bought a few houses while in the Air Force, and my realtors were not the best. And I was like, wow, what an impact a good realtor could make, especially on a service member, young, buying a house right, understanding a long-term game plan to make it an asset that's going to create generational wealth. So from there, I just went all in.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Pete.
Oh, I was gonna say you said a couple of key things there that I feel that there's like it's a pattern you see the more people you speak to about this sort of stuff, where you tried a bunch of stuff, you weren't afraid to do it, which
Yep.
is a phenomenal and very common quality that I've seen where it's like, yeah, I did a bunch of stuff and none of it worked. I hated it all. And you didn't hate it all. You learned a lot of stuff from it.
Yeah.
And you said, I think, a key thing where it's like you couldn't control the experience. And that was super important to you. And that feeling is something that I see a lot as well. But you're seeing an opportunity from all those past experiences, and then stuff just starts to pop, and then you realize it. I'm reading a book right now. It's Jordan Peterson, Beyond Order, and one of the chapters is opportunity lies where responsibility has been abdicated, and it's a long way to say you saw a bunch of opportunities from your poor experiences with prior real estate agents. You're like, I could do this better, is what it sounds like, right?
Hmm.
And so, to Tim's question, you were active duty, you were trying a bunch of other things that were working, but you didn't really enjoy. When did you start? Did you how like long into it are you right now? Like where are you at in the business? Like the brief, I guess, overview, like Tim was saying as well, with kind
Yeah.
of
So I started up in Alaska. I One of the key things that helped me really start well was I found a business partner who brought me on to teach me the ropes, same kind of vision, core values, all that. So that was essential, right? But
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, as soon as I hit the ground running, I had all these skills that I acquired. I mean, I was knocking on storefronts trying to get store owners to sell my vitamin pack, right? So
Yeah.
I had those uncomfortable moments, and I was able to push through it, and I gained a lot of experience through it. So the first 4 months, um, I did very well. Sold quite a few houses actually, and just the key thing, I wasn't afraid to go out there. I knew I had a support system behind me. My biggest fear was just to provide value to the customer, and that meant I had to be humble to say when I didn't know, and that I would figure it out. And I think that played a huge role in that early success, and still today.
That's I think that's key, Tom. I really like that in terms of, you know, being humble, having some humility in the process, and admitting when you know you might not have all the answers, but you know you'll find them. So I think that's probably something that, you know, your service ties into as well, is being
Oh
able to
yeah,
do that, you know, and have that humility, because in any leadership role in or out of the military, that's a common theme. Um, so I guess, Tom, what some of the things, maybe what are some attributes from, you know, your time in the Air Force? Um, how do you think that has, you know, given you a leg up maybe in the real estate industry?
sure. And I've always been passionate about leadership. My master's is in leadership as well, so something I've always enjoyed. Specifically from the Air Force, though, and I'm sure you remember. So I'm a senior NCO, and a lot of times in charge of people and processes and everything else that you could imagine. And that's the thing; they'll just throw you something, you catch it, you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but you eventually, like, I'm going to figure it out somehow. And that skill alone has, man, like when I went out on my own finally in real estate, I'd get hit with stuff. I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I know I'm going to do it. It's Parkinson's law. Whatever the thing is, in that allotted amount of time, it's going to get done. So
Mm-hmm.
that would alleviate a lot of stress, and that's added to the overall success as well.
Yeah. So you're telling me that in your time in the Air Force, you've been thrown into a situation
Yeah.
where you had to figure it out. Go imagine. I've never lived that experience before. Pete, that's
Minimal guidance, just do it.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. That's you know what, Tom? I mean, that's I think from a lot of folks that have military experience, that's definitely one thing that is a common thread. Is the figure it out mentality, which sometimes when you think about it, when you're experiencing it and you're living it, you're like, okay, you know, is there anything else? But
No.
but in hindsight, I mean, it grows you
Oh
to
yeah.
be a, you know, a better leader overall and
Yeah.
figure out.
And I will say, so I think the evolution is you sell a lot of houses personally, and then for me at least, I want to kind of transfer my skills to other people, build a team, build on or bring on people with like-minded goals. Um, if I can get enough people in the same group together that are excited and passionate, the results are going to be exponential.
Mm-hmm.
But all that chaos I've experienced in the Air Force, and eventually maintain that kind of cool mentality, I guess. Calm is contagious. So I think that's very helpful in real estate, because agents are going to come to me and think, oh, the world's ending because of XYZ. And I'm like, all right, take a step back. Let's look at it. Let's put it in numbers. Let's analyze it. It's not that bad. We can do this and this and that. So
Yeah.
that's another thing, just being in that. It's almost like, and sorry, I use a lot of metaphors, so forgive me
That's
for
how
the
my brain
cheesy
works. That's
metaphor.
perfect.
Trying to stay in the center of that hurricane where it's calm in the eye, because when you're in the wind and the storm, you can't think of anything except what's going on. So taking that step back, looking at the big picture, and then moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. Calm is contagious.
Calm
So
is contagious. Chaos is contagious too. You
that,
got to be
I was going to say,
careful.
so they both are though. But Tom, what I'm hearing you say though too, and so I don't have, you know, any military service. You know, I have friends, family, and, you know, obviously you two as well that I know that have. And it's something that I've spoken with friends about, and wanted to see what your thoughts are on it as well a little bit here, because it's something that I went to Penn State. You know, I have plenty of friends who went to college, plenty of friends who didn't. And the ability to think, I think, is something that can be trained. And I think that a lot of military and just service members and really people that are in positions that aren't necessarily just like an office job necessarily, where it's like even my dad's a contractor, an electrical contractor. You know, he wears a suit, and I don't know what he really does now anymore. But anyway, he always taught me where it's like, yeah, we're going to just like, we have to move this over there, figure it out. You know, like that sort of attitude is, it's not necessarily there is no book to go by. There's nothing by the book, but it's developing the confidence in yourself that you have the skills and knowledge, or at least the ability to ask someone else who will have the skills and knowledge to figure it out. So long lead up to the question of, what is your experience now after starting those different things, knocking on doors with the vitamin company, moving into real estate, like the mentorship aspect? And you were just saying, as far as like building a team now to transfer your knowledge, like what are the steps that you're taking now to do that, really, I guess, because part of it's with Tim.
Sure. I've been practicing real estate for about 4 years now. Like I said, hit the ground running, found some initial success and kind of kept that snowball getting bigger and bigger. Last year, I finally jumped off of a team that wasn't, jumped off of a team, switched brokerages, and started building this business, Patriot Real Estate Partners, here locally in Virginia. And during that process, I still managed to do 30 transactions, which isn't the most, but again, I'm full-time military, so 40, 50 hours a week sometimes, kids and a wife who are the priority. So I try to be very specific, daddy-daughter dates with the wife, things like that, and then real estate. So I got to be very efficient. And sorry, I'm going off on tangents, but building a team was almost out of necessity, because I started getting all this business, and this year it's exponentially increasing, because what's happening is it's all word of mouth business. I'm not marketing, I'm not advertising. I am doing long-term strategies like getting Google reviews, doing blog posts, and I'm doing that long-term stuff that's going to help for success in the future, especially when my team gets the bandwidth to take it on. But as of now, it's all word of mouth business. And this is basically providing a customer service experience to the client that's above and beyond what they would expect. After that, they've somewhat become a champion. And within the military networks, it's so strong. There's Facebook spouses pages. There's just, in the military in general, when people find something that's good, they spread it. Right now, I'm sitting with like 35 active buyers, just myself, and now the team's growing again, almost out of necessity. And yes, the ultimate goal was to build a team to kind of dominate military real estate for Virginia. But man, it's becoming one of those things where I have to, because of the growth we're experiencing.
Yeah,
that's huge, and I think that's a good segue, Tom, into, you know, you already kind of hit on it a little bit, kind of leading into this, but one of the things that I found was pretty incredible when we, you know, first met and started talking and everything, was how you are still able to maintain that schedule of, you know, active duty military and still doing 30 transactions last year.
Your family, not to mention, that's, you know.
Well, yeah, and most importantly, your family. You know, when you think about all the time commitments and the priorities within that, I mean, that's huge. So I guess it's a two-part question. The first one, I guess we'll hit on is, you know, how have you seen yourself be successful with managing that schedule and all the different competing priorities?
Yep. So somewhat of a loaded question, but I think the core of it's efficiency, and efficiency could be achieved in multiple ways. So I'm always reading books, some good books, deep work. Sometimes I get the stopwatch out. So basically, when I get the stopwatch out, this thing's only going when I'm actively doing the work that I've set to do, right? If I get distracted, social media, whatever, it stops. So that kind of keeps me on target as well. But I mean, it even goes out into the clients that I take on, my vetting process with them, because I want to work with motivated clients who trust me. We have a good rapport, and that's going to also allow me that efficiency during the transactions that versus a cold lead that they kind of are standoffish and don't have that initial trust, or you know what I mean.
Yep.
So I'm kind of very strategic about who I work with during my uh, initial calls, building that confidence, vetting them, just letting them know what I'm about, how I'm going to take care of them, how hard I'm going to work for them,
Right.
and making sure it's a symbiotic thing.
Gotcha. I'm laughing because Tom, it sounds like you don't work with every single person that exists.
Mm-mm.
It's almost like you have a business plan and a strategy behind it. No, and I'm joking. I'm just serious, but it like, to be serious rather, it listening to you for the past 5 minutes, it really sounds like, really, man, that you have your priorities straight, in a simple, straightforward way to say it, where you're like, what stood out to me was what you said with my daughter, with my wife. And because of that, all of this has to happen so I can do that. And with the military stuff, like, not stuff, but with it's you have to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not that real estate's secondary, but you said that first, and then you said you're building out this team now too with it, and it's something that your growth and your learning has been by necessity. And I guess my question is, like, is that something that I can't think of a situation where that isn't the case, where, like, if you're not actively trying to grow and learn, it's going to be putting you in situations where it's difficult. So with you and Tim partnering now, how are you guys building that team? Like, what are you actively trying to do to train people as they come on, like, build it up that way?
Okay. So there's like things going on in parallel with me and Tim, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it all goes down to a central stem, I guess you could say. So selling in the Air Force, doing the real estate thing, there are specific things that allowed me to be successful. There are things that I wish I had available to me. And I've even had great business partners, and I've had business partners I learned from, I'll say that,
Mm-hmm.
teammates. So, one thing that I want to show people, especially active duty, retirees, military spouses, you have you have a lot of possibilities, a lot of potential to really change your family's life, just acquiring certain skills, thinking about things like servant leadership, how to add value to others. And my mission and goal, and something that brings me a lot of fulfillment, is showing people how to succeed in this business. And not only do they find success, but it's this cascading thing of value across the military where they're serving a military member. Yeah, they're getting compensated for it, but that member is going to be better off for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, locally, I'm building a team here in Virginia, like my own local team,
Mm-hmm.
and we're scaling up. We're going to do things that add value to the community. We're going to serve, and man, it's so powerful because again, that military network. Every time I bring on somebody who's passionate with the same core values, they have all these ties into the military network that I didn't have. And I'm going to show them how to fish, how to connect with those people, how to say, hey, if you need me, I'm here to add value. I'm a real estate professional. Meeting Tim, we can get this thing going across the US. And he basically allowed me an outlet to do this on a wider level. I won't be able to do it as hands on, but still, there are things I wish I knew from my beginnings that we can pass on to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we'll hit on that a little bit more in depth, towards the end in terms of kind of the vision moving forward with that. Definitely something we're both excited about growing into the future. I I guess I want to just kind of get back to a certain point that we were initially talking about a little bit earlier, and that's you shared some of the strategies, I guess, in terms of having that giant referral base. I think you said you have 35 qualified buyers that are ready to move. You know, that
finally starting to get some listings too, which is good.
Yeah, and so there's ultimate time leverage too. I guess, is there anything that you haven't hit on yet, Tom, that you could tell anyone that wants to build? I know you gave me you referred that book for building a referral based business. I guess, is there anything? Yeah, there's another good one. Is there anything you haven't already hit on, maybe tactically, that you do to just keep that large referral base of like, hey, Tom's the guy to go to, so you have all those incoming warm leads?
I mean, and the simple truth is just becoming somebody of value that is going to provide that value. Like there's no faking it till you make it in that aspect. But again, that doesn't mean you can't be connected with a valuable organization that can provide you that, right? So when I was just starting, I didn't know much, but I was ambitious, I was hungry, I was connected with the right resources. Since then, I mean, even today, I'm always studying, learning, understanding, looking at the market, looking how I can provide value. I would say that's definitely number one. And then number two is just being generally thankful for those who refer your name, who advocate for you. I do that in multiple ways. I'll send gift cards. My wife does a lot of custom closing gifts. And it's the little things that will win people over. Like I'll have people PCSing from across the U.S. I know what that feels like. I know what driving across the U.S. with kids feels like. I know when you get to your home, finally, you're excited, but then you don't have anything to eat. So I might stock the home with groceries, maybe a bottle of tequila, it's something there that they're like, oh, okay, let me unload and just relax for a minute. So thinking about things like that, and then just being generally thankful every once in a while, say, hey, thank you so much for putting my name out there. It provides more than you understand. The last couple of weeks, I think I've picked up 5 buyers just from the Facebook pages alone. So it's huge. And it's, again, just this domino effect snowball that they give me another lead. I knock it out of the park for that lead, and then it gets bigger and bigger. So,
yeah,
it's something where focusing on providing value, it sounds like is really core for you, really. And then just the appreciation, where it's like you're turning the customer into a raving fan.
Yep. I think and one of the earliest things I picked up about you, Tom, that I really loved meeting you initially with is and this is something that there's a lot of good carryover in any leadership role in or out of the military, and that's the concept that you hit on with servant leadership. So I guess for people that don't really understand the concept of servant leadership, can you hit on that a little bit and how that's made you successful in the military and in real estate?
Yeah. So I'm huge on servant leadership, right? And that does not mean subservient leadership. Somebody could join my team. They could be a bad fit for the team. They could be a bad fit as a realtor, and have an honest conversation. I say the same thing with airmen. Sometimes you get a brand new airman into the Air Force, and the Air Force is just not for them. Yep. You're doing them a favor. You're serving them by saying, hey, man, this isn't for you, getting them out, maybe directing them, giving them some advice somewhere else. But it doesn't mean that you're subservient, right? It just means I care about my teammates. I care about my clients more than I care about a commission. To me, take care of those things, and then you'll get that return on value eventually, but it shouldn't be the focus.
100%. I love that. Yeah, I think that's a huge, shifting point for most people, and in any industry really, is like if you focus on pouring into other people, serving them, being genuine, always ethical, morally sound, truthful at all times, like really those foundational principles, and you focus on that with other folks, then the harder things, I guess, will come easier to you. Things will start to fall into place, as a general theme, just by focusing on that alone. So I do love that. Pete, it looked like you were going to ask a question on that.
No, I just was making sure that I understood what he was saying. Really, we're just like, I think there's a lot of value in the concept of building a referral-based business, but starting with what you value first, and then making sure that you're essentially just putting that out into the marketplace, where it's like, you nailed it, where you're just like, hey, I've driven across the country to relocate with kids in the car, and all I wanted was to not have to go grocery shopping.
Yeah.
And that's why I did this for you, because I've experienced it and I understand how freaking ridiculous that experience was. And because of that, this is what I want to do to help.
Yep. And when I drove from Alaska, I
That's a
came
long-
here in my yard. I bought out of state and my yard was like this high. It's like, come on. So people that have bought a couple months ahead of time with me, I've even mowed the yard, or I'll hire somebody else to mow the yard, maintain the place, things like that have gone a long way as well.
That's a whole lot better than like a blanket.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that you probably wouldn't think of unless you had already lived it, experienced it, and that's how you're able to leverage your experiences into just bettering their lives. So I think that's huge, with maybe having like a niche in real estate. So obviously military is yours. So I think that points the importance of maybe niching down to something specific that you have, experienced, lived, whatever, and that makes it more of like a natural fit.
Yeah, and that's what this one's all about too, right? Finding the group of people you connect well with organically, and then you have that initial layer of trust, and it makes everything so much easier. They trust you, you trust them. That makes all the difference, and that's probably why I've been able to do what I do. I have had I'm getting more and more outside leads through the SEO efforts and the Facebook and the reviews. So I am getting some outside, but again, during that initial conversation, I make sure that it's going to be a symbiotic relationship. They trust me. They understand I'm going to work hard for them. And I kind of set the ground rules, build confidence, vet them. It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're setting expectations, it sounds like, is a very important thing too, because again, I think it's a reoccurring theme where like you're absolutely 100% correct, where if you don't have an expectation set, someone's going to set it. It's going to not be you, and you're going to have to meet the expectation of the client if you don't determine that for yourself. And that's where I think people run themselves into the ground and feel frustrated and potentially ultimately fail, so.
Yeah, that's I can't even imagine, Tom, putting myself back in active duty. I can't imagine the potential dumpster fire of having unclear expectations with clients in real estate where, some ground rules maybe weren't initially laid out. And that's something that we would obviously take ownership of, but just having to run all over the map and then deal with active duty stuff, obviously the importance of family. Without doing that, I mean, it would be a mess. So I think that's huge. That's definitely a big learning point.
And I mean, so part of my success is creating an organization, finding the right people to join my team. For instance, I found a assistant who sees the vision I have, which is literally to dominate military real estate across the U.S., starting in Virginia. So big goals. She sees the vision of what I'm doing. She's going to be my HR. She's going to be the team manager. She's eventually going to be the CEO suite level type individual. But so I have her working with me now, because when I am heavy in military stuff, obviously I can't handle things that need to be handled. And with my goal of extremely high customer service, I need somebody to keep the plates spinning. So I put those type of individuals, and I'm always just looking, like I said, 10 years ago, I started this to seek out other people who are motivated, energetic, do things for the right reason. So I'm always looking for that. And I've been attracting these type of people. I got some awesome people here locally across the U.S., and having those people on my team, it's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and knowing Chilla personally, she is absolutely an asset,
Yeah.
to what you guys are doing there and what we're doing together. I guess, looking at scaling, growing a team, handling all those incoming leads. I guess talk a little bit more about, your process of finding talent that aligned with your vision for the future, and then that process of building that out a little bit more if you can.
Sure. So I am not a recruiter at all. Like I don't want to recruit anybody that doesn't want to be a part of what I'm doing. So the stance that I took is I kind of brand myself on Facebook. I share my wins, experiences, even some failures, because it's a good way to showcase I'm too stupid to quit. But I attract people through that energy, through what I'm doing. They come to me. But I also see people who I think would be stellar in this kind of job. And I can't help myself but to spew my energy like, hey, man, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? And like, yeah, I want to do that too. Come on in. So there's been some of that as well.
Yeah.
But that's a select few who I see like extremely high potential in that I think could help me just really grow this thing in an exponential way.
Yeah.
Because, well, Tim, I mean, to your question, so you were saying finding talent that's aligned with the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a consistent theme I'm hearing you say, where you're defining it for yourself, and it's saying that, like, again, listen, I have all these things going on, and I'm not going to actively be out calling people to hire them. But what I'm going to do is take what I want, take what I am, and what I think and value, and put it out into the marketplace and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and would love to talk to you if you're interested in that, and appreciate you very much if you don't agree. No worries.
Yeah.
And it organically creates something, it makes something happen. Not that you're passively doing it, you are actively doing it, but it's at scale. I think it's a very good way to scale a message, if you will.
And I've talked to a few masterminds too, and a few of them have kind of directed me, hey, you got to just go after a select few people at a high level, and that's it. But I'm going to try this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll fail. We'll see. My business strategy, business model is if there's a military spouse that wants to do one transaction a month to bring in extra income, I'm going to help her do that. I'm going to provide the resources. I might not be one-on-one with her every single day, but I'm going to create processes, procedures, resources that she could get. I'm also going to put people in place that she can ask questions to, like Chilla. Eventually, people Chilla hires, but I'm going to put this structure in place to help her succeed. I'm going to say, this is what you need to do. And I mean, I'm going to try to stay on top. Like, hey, are you doing these things? But eventually, if you're not going to do it, it's an eat what you kill kind of industry. And that's okay. Like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Right. But if you want to do 1-2 transactions a month, I'm going to show you how to do that.
Yeah. Yep. I think it goes back to that theme of pouring into people. And, I guess if you put yourself in the position of where you were when you first started out, what you would have wanted, what you would have needed to hit the ground running. So maybe that's kind of a good segue into a little bit of what you and I have been working on, Tom, with Patriot Partners, the mastermind network. I guess so it's interesting because you're in a little bit of a unique position where you are still active duty. You have a couple of years left, until retirement. And whereas I, got out in 2018 and then got into the industry after. I guess what would you say to anyone who is, close to retirement, getting out, or a military spouse, or even a veteran that is, already out of the military? What would you tell them, if they had some interest in real estate in general?
Yep, I would say start now. When I was in Alaska, one of the best things I did was start now. Initially, when I was in Alaska, I started the journey about a year out from PCSing. I was like, it doesn't make sense. But my first business partner was like, dude, you just got to jump in, get some experience, and start doing. That was huge. No matter where you're at, I mean, again, you can throttle it for where you're comfortable, but start now, start doing, start learning. Because in real estate, I mean, as you guys know, even somebody doing it 20 years could come across a scenario tomorrow that they're like, all right, I've never seen this, giddy up.
Yeah.
So you're just building that experience, that schema, and that's powerful. Just do now, get surrounded by people that have your best interests at heart. And that's one thing that I'm excited for what me and Tim are doing, because when I got in real estate, I got lucky. I had a good business partner who had my best interests, had a good heart. We saw eye to eye. I've had not so good business partners, and if I had them out of the gate, that could have hurt. That could have stopped me from. I mean, again, I'm too stupid to quit, but it could stop some people from continuing, from succeeding, and things like that. So what we're doing, we're helping people jump into real estate, showing them good practices. This is how you market to a niche. These are good mindset, like those things, but also their best interest in heart, vetting teams they might go to, vetting partnerships, just saying, hey, ask these questions, or this is what they're offering, consider this. So that way we can really, truly set them up for success from the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pete, feel free to jump in at any time with any questions you might have.
And because that's the thing too, where it's you don't know what you don't know, I guess, where especially, it's not necessarily an age thing, but I think age certainly plays a factor into it. And so, the question is, if someone's coming out of the military, I mean, Tim, you're what, 29, 30 now, like a couple years ago, you're 25, 6, 7, 8 in the person that you're maybe most commonly going to be speaking to. I'm 30 now as well. And my point is too, like almost everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs a mentor. Everyone needs someone with their best interests at heart. And with your program, it sounds like it's broad, but it's focused at the same time. Like you're looking to help people specifically transition out of the military. Is that something that, I guess the question is, like, ultimately, is it because you guys had a difficult time with it? Is that something that you experienced individually?
A
little bit about like what's your story as far as like the transition? I mean, obviously, Tom, you're still active, but I guess Tim specifically, I know yours, and I know it's a good story. So your experience of transitioning out.
Yeah, I think that that's a good question. I mean, I think that's a huge driving force and a motivating factor, for both of us, is really the fact that, there's all sorts of preparation before you get out of the military in terms of, okay, here's potential career fields you could go to, what are some of your interests? And with that is it's called Skillbridge, to look into a specific industry. And so I guess if you want to use military terms, tactically, those things are laid out for you. But there's a lot of variables that are harder to quantify that you don't really account for. So I'll give you, one, for example. Tom and I have both in the military seen what good leadership and bad leadership looks like. And so in my situation, I got out of the Army, went into a position where I didn't necessarily align with the beliefs of the group I was with in a different industry. I didn't really enjoy the style of leadership, maybe we'll say. And I think that was just a misalignment of values on my part. So what I, valued in leadership and in, any organization, it wasn't really aligned. So when you leave the military, you have that sense of purpose that you have the whole time. You get out of the military, and a lot of veterans are they feel like they lose a sense of purpose. They're not sure. Hey, I'm in this corporation, so my purpose is now to just drive profit in the bottom line. That doesn't really seem like something that I'm, able to get behind daily. So I think that fostering that sense of purpose and just aligning the beliefs when you get out of the military is hugely important. And I think that makes any transition out of the military just a little bit more seamless. So yeah, I mean, sorry, I kind of went off a little bit of a tangent.
No, well, because that's the transition where maybe, I mean, and it's broader too, I think, than just the military, but the military is there's such a serious, stressful, high stress job rather that's occurring in general. And then it comes to a close. And like you were saying, Tim, okay, so like, I just do like spreadsheets now, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like systems and processes, but it's like, what's the goal here? What am I trying to do? Like, make more money? How much money? Like $1 billion? Like, is that enough? I think what you guys are doing is amazing, because you're helping people define success for what their own lives is going to, what it's going to look like for their own life. Like you said, Tom, a second ago, where I don't necessarily care if it's a spouse or anybody involved in the military that's looking to do 2 or 3 deals a year. Like, good, like, let's work on that, and it's trying to help people, because you never know who someone's going to become.
Yeah.
And if you align with the program, you never know if they're going to be your biggest supporter and refer you 50 more people, because you care, you genuinely care.
That's servant leadership. Yeah,
exactly. So,
and that's just real quick to hit on, I think that's hugely important in who you surround yourself with. Your environment is everything. So, when you get out of the military, if you're in an environment that you don't align with, I mean, that's just going to, bring you down. Hopefully you don't have to go through that. But, when you find the people that share those values and beliefs that you also share, that drive you, that get you up in the morning, that is life-changing. So when you align with the right people that have each other's backs, best interest in mind, I mean, that's huge. I think that's, I can't hit on that enough. So,
So with the partnership, Patriot Partners, you guys working on together here, what's the plan for the future? I mean, where are you at now, and then where do you see it going? What do you want it to become, and like, what's success for you both with that organization?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
So it's at the baby stages now. We just created the LLC, the infrastructure. We're trying to create some curriculum. We're onboarding our first individuals from Skillbridge. So it's a lot of that initial beta stages where we're finding out, okay, what do you need? Here's something. Does that help? And it's a polishing process. Eventually, we want to become, again, well known across the U.S. If you think about, if you want to succeed in real estate as a military individual, go with these guys, because they got the playbook, they got the support systems, and they actually care. They want you to succeed.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think, like Tom mentioned, kind of where we're at and, where we want to go. I think it goes back to just the whole idea of adding value, over time, just being able to build this out, across the US, and eventually getting to a point where, there's somebody that is within our organization that, is at each major installation for some of these future military members getting out. They have someone locally that they can then lean on with the existing platform and structure we have, so we will give them some of the tactical things, that they'll need to account for on a day-to-day, but also somebody there locally to team up with, shadow, have as a mentor to kind of hit the ground running. So long term, I think that's the direction we're going in. So I guess, Pete, do you have any other questions for Tom, or we've got him on? Tom, time is valuable, man. He's got.
It is. Well, and that's the thing too. I first off very much appreciate you jumping on, Tom. And right now this will be broadcasted later, but it's we started at 8:30 Eastern time here, and I'm very impressed by your schedule and routine. Just to sit to like, and it's so apparent to me how much you appreciate your time, and hearing you say it, it's very clear why now, where it's like your family, and you want to help people, man. You really do, right? Like and it's something that I feel that Tim, I don't want to speak for you, but I can say for sure that you genuinely do, and that's something that usually it comes from like past experience too. You get like knocks in life in some way. And I think that, I mean, for me, with what we're trying to do, with our organization here with Mindset Mentors, is I never really had a mentor, man. Like I had my dad, you know, and he's an expert in some things and doesn't know everything, you know, that unlike you think you do when you're a kid, right? So my point in saying that is like, for you guys, maybe something to close on is like, what's something that, like, what's the reason you have you thought about that? Like the deep rooted reason where it's like, I really want to help a lot of people. You know, is that something that was just always in you? Do you think it was like your mom and dad, maybe family sort of thing growing up, or was there like experience that occurred?
I mean, so my priorities are always God, family, business.
Mm.
I don't know. There's always been a fire. There's always been a
Yeah.
fire, and it's somewhat of a selfish ambition too, because I truly want to get better, to be around better people. Because man, when you're around a group of killers that
Mm.
are motivated, who are intrinsically motivated too. I mean, money's a tool, right? It's neutral. It's a tool,
Mm.
but it's not the end all. It's more about making impacts on others, building out things, building an organization of people that you enjoy to be around. So it's kind of selfish, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, selfishly, you want to help a lot of people because it makes you feel good. I would say that's a positive thing, net positive.
Yeah,
And
you're
what you
working
just said
towards a
too.
collective. Yeah, you're working towards a collective good that you're able to hit a higher bar, than that you would not have otherwise hit without that group of people, with you alongside you. You go way further in having an impact than had it just been you, on your own all along. I think
Mm.
I remember from when I was in college in ROTC. I'll give Captain Barham, I'll give him a shout out. So one of his quotes as my instructor was, with leadership, take what you like and leave what you don't. So over time, you're going to have so many different experiences. You're going to see so many different examples of leaders and different leadership styles. Take what you like and leave what you don't from anyone you have these interactions with. And over time, just like meeting, thousands of people in your life, you then form into an individual that has these different styles that can be meshed into your own personal style. I've
Mm.
always been fascinated with the concept of leadership and how you can collectively do something, very efficiently, effectively towards, a singular aim or value or goal. And in this case, it's, just providing that value for veterans, active duty, guard reserve, spouses, just having that network and that community, I think is going to take us a long way. So
Absolutely. Yeah, guys. I mean, it's amazing because it sounds like it's something that it there's a big space for it. There's a missing gap, and it feels like filling that space is something where you can find a lot of meaning, for yourselves individually, and like seriously make a difference. Where it's like just those details that you said, where it's like you take what you both learn from your military service. I mean, and you could joke about it where it's like, but there's a book and a system and a process for pretty much everything in the military, and there has to be, because it's I think, I mean, I can't remember exactly, but it's which branch is the largest, but largest employer that exists, and if they don't have a process for it, it's not going to work. And, taking what you've learned from that, turning it into something where you can scale it, it's an amazing thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're approaching the hour mark here, and Tom's got a full day ahead.
I'm
Full
going to
speed ahead.
hit the
Wow.
end broadcast button real quick. So I appreciate you, Tom. And
Thank
thank you.
you, Tom, so much. Yeah, hit the record button. That's how we end it.